What a summer it was for movies. What's poppin'? Today we're going to be talking about the summer of 2023. And oh my god! What happened? Seriously, I blink once and everybody's loving the movies, and I blink again and nothing's happening. To say the summer has so far been a dud for the box office is a huge understatement. A lot, and I mean basically all the releases have been kind of flops. They have huge budgets, close to $100 million, and a huge chunk of them aren't making all that back. And especially those opening weekends, those are not very profitable, all things considered. And these are films from the tyrants, like DreamWorks and Disney. This is highly unusual for the streak of making a crap ton of money at the box office. But why is all this happening? I mean, surely people are going to be interested in some of these films. But why are the results not showing? Well, today I'm going to try and answer that to the best of my ability. Small disclaimer, I haven't actually seen the newest Indiana Jones movie, so take anything I say about that movie with a grain of salt. I'll be purely focusing on statistics for that movie and not so much the overall quality, as I'm sure people can determine that for themselves. So yeah, take it loosely. Although, that being said, with everything I've heard about Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, everyone is kind of saying it's about average of a movie, which definitely could play into a part for why the numbers are so low. A lot of people are pointing fingers at the argument movies are getting worse, which has been an argument for a very long time now, even since before the age of the sequels. I wouldn't say movies are getting worse, but I would say that they're getting less original. Take a look at the majority of the movie catalogs from the past decade or so. A lot have been rehashes, reboots, sequels, spin-offs, taking old IPs and giving them new life, which doesn't sound like a bad idea, because sometimes it's a really great thing. It's a great way to reintroduce a character or introduce the characters to a new audience. It's not a bad thing at all, if done right. Unfortunately, those words I just said would all be neglected because, well, these reboots and sequels have often gone notorious for being so bad. They have been associated with mediocrity, which is why when a new one is announced, it's already kind of at a disadvantage. Whether or not the quality is good, the issue is that because sequels have garnered such a reputation, some people might not even bother going to see that movie. In some ways, I genuinely understand because, well, yeah, some of these do really suck. Another factor is the fact that a lot of people are growing tired of seeing the same thing. Some of the most common ones being superhero fatigue and multiverse fatigue, as those two things are very prevalent in this current age. Again, in no way am I saying all superhero media is bad, because there's stuff like The Boys, Invincible, or the newest Batman movie, which are extremely good. The issue is, big companies like Marvel and DC have pumped out so many mediocre superhero movies that has kind of become the association of what superheroes are. Just take a look at The Flash, which was an utter flop. In fact, I think it is the biggest flop for superhero movies altogether. This one going for a 2-in-1, trying to introduce a multiverse to an already dead cinematic universe. Good job, Flash. Of course, this could also be due to Ezra Miller's many controversies, but that being said, people just might not seem interested either. There is so much superhero content that it feels like a chore to keep up with it nowadays, especially with all these expanded multiversal universes, or whatever you want to call it, that it's starting to get a little bit played out. In Marvel's case, the introduction of Disney Plus spawned a cesspool of all kinds of original content, and a lot of it isn't that great, I'll be honest. But it also creates a new problem, which is having your viewers have to keep up with two sources and variations of watching the cinematic universe now. You now made it more challenging. Now this could work in theory, but Marvel is on a non-stop Disney Plus TV show train, and it is pumping out shows what feels like every month. They have slowed down a bit now, but it's too late. The damage has been done. On the animation side of things, we have Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, and Elementals, which, looking at the latter, this movie was not given a fair shot whatsoever. But I would be a huge hypocrite if I said I was not interested in this movie either. It felt kinda samey, very like Zootopia style, and a lot of people just felt like they had already seen it and done that, so nobody really cared. This movie also didn't do very great at the box office, especially its opening nights. This thing just kind of fell under everyone's radar. I don't even think I realized this thing had been out until like 2 weeks later. Side note here though, it actually wasn't that bad of a movie. It was pretty cute and enjoyable. Nothing what you'd expect from like the god tier Pixar movies, but it was pretty fun. Yeah, that's another thing. Pixar is known for pumping out great movies, but recently they've been a little bit on a flop. People have overall just been less interested in them. and it shows brutally. I mean, this movie performed worse in its domestic release than The Good Dinosaur and Onward, which are regarded as two of the worst Pixar films. This is a awful sign for Pixar, because you know what they're gonna do now? They're gonna pump out another Toy Story. It's what they've been planning all along. On a budget of $200 million, this movie is barely now about to reach that goal. It is a huge financial flop, which is a little upsetting because it's not that bad of a film. It's pretty enjoyable. But again, there's just not that interest to see a Pixar film considering their recent streak. Not to mention, I've heard a lot of people say that the marketing wasn't really there for this movie. And when it was there, it was pretty awful. As for Teenage Kraken, I honestly don't know what went wrong with this movie. It did feel like the marketing just wasn't there. I just didn't hear enough buzz about this movie or saw any trailers of it really other than the one on YouTube. So its release once again caught me off guard. It was like the dust cloud Puss in Boots The Last Wish left, and it feels kind of weird. A lot of people just weren't really interested in this movie because it didn't really offer anything that interesting, which is weird considering the whole premise is about people turning into Krakens. I just have like an odd feeling with this movie. I just can't really depict it. It just doesn't strike me. I guess I wasn't alone on this one because this movie also did very awful in its opening. $5.2 million. It is the third lowest opening for DreamWorks. Movies have kind of found themselves in a little bit of a weird state now because it's clear that some of the original pieces can't really make money, but neither can the sequels. Could it be that people are just getting tired of movie theaters? Well, I don't think so. I asked some of the people in my life whether they thought movie theaters were worse than streaming services, and the answers were still very in favor of movie theaters. Despite really the convenience that streaming service adds to movies, and at a relatively lower price considering you can watch multiple different things on there without having to go pay for a ticket all the time, not to mention concessions, I still got a lot more support for movie theaters than I did with streaming services. And many people claim it's just the experience. And yeah, it is a pretty powerful experience to go into a movie theater, watch it on the big screen with surround sound, and just enjoy yourself. So I don't think movie theaters are going anywhere anytime soon per se. It was close in the pandemic, but people did still flock to them, so it's a telltale sign that things are going to be okay, at least for the time being. Really, I can kind of chalk down most of these failures to all these movies being released at the wrong time. Each of these 4 films all have their own reason for failing, some due to poor marketing, some involving controversies of the movie, and others just because no one's really excited to see another shameless sequel. I think there is still a want for good quality movies out there, because there always will be, and I'm sure the majority of the people really want that. The sequels definitely tired people out, and the original content just didn't get promoted enough. Movies aren't really necessarily the issue, because we see things like Across the Spider-Verse which perform extremely well in the box office. This movie is making well over $500,000 and it hasn't even stopped yet. Major film companies are kind of in a weird spot right now because they're still trying to figure out what their next move is going to be. These companies really need to play their cards right. DreamWorks is definitely going to get a lot of money with their upcoming projects like Trolls 3 and Kung Fu Panda 4, and Disney's Toy Story 5. As for the DCEU, I think it's completely dead at this point, and there's kind of no really way of fixing it, which is what I'm assuming The Flash was for, kind of just writing off everything that happened. As for Indiana Jones, I think it's time he gets retired. Let's leave classics as classics and start making more original stuff. But what do you guys think about these summer movies? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all later.